It's time for Republicans to accept that there is no bipartisan deal to be made solely on their partisan terms.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday called Republicans' latest offers in the debt ceiling negotiations unacceptable, telling reporters at a news conference in Hiroshima, Japan, that he would speak with Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on his way home from the G7 summit about how to cut spending together to reach a deal.
I've done my part. We put forward a proposal to cut spending by more than $1 trillion, on top of the nearly $3 trillion in deficit reduction that I previously proposed through the combination of spending cuts and new revenues. Now it's time for the other side to move from their extreme positions, because much of what they've already proposed is simply, quite frankly, unacceptable. And so let me be clear. I'm not going to agree to a deal that protects, for example, a $30 billion tax break for the oil industry, which made $200 billion last year. They don't need an incentive of another $30 billion, while putting health care of 21 million Americans at risk by going after Medicaid.
Biden also said he believed he had the authority to invoke the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to raise the debt ceiling without Congress, but said there was little time to test that legal theory.
The question is, could it be done and invoked in time that it would not be appealed and, as a consequence, past the date in question and still default on the debt? That's a question that I think is unresolved.
Later on Sunday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said June 1st was a hard deadline for raising the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling, repeating a warning that the government could run out of cash by that date and be forced to default. Less than 2 weeks remain until June 1st, and concerns about a default are weighing on markets. Republicans are pushing for sharp spending cuts and many domestic programs in exchange for the increase in the government's debt limit, which is needed regularly to cover costs of spending and tax cuts previously approved by lawmakers. After speaking with Biden on his way back home to Washington, McCarthy called the phone call productive and said they will meet again on Monday, and that staff-level negotiations were set to resume later on Sunday.